In today's show, it's all about the number 10. We've got things that are rated on a scale of 1 to 10. We've got top 10 lists. There are the 10 commandments. So in today's show, I'm going to do my version of the number 10. So tune in and let's get started with another episode of Computer Train.
It's time for Computer Train, the weekly TV program that trains you how to use your computer. With your host, El Paso Community College faculty member Russ Myers.
Welcome to another episode of Computer Train. As I alluded to, this show is all about the number 10. More specifically, it's about the Windows operating system, and recently they came out with Windows 10. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look around, we're going to describe some concepts like always, and get you a little bit more familiar with the operating system of Windows 10. If you buy a new computer today, it's going to have this operating system, so we might as well get used to it. First of all, what I want to do is show you kind of the history of Windows and kind of show you where we are today. So let's take a look at a little bit of history, not very much, and says how did we get here with Windows 10. So in this example, it kind of goes all the way back to 1990, and that was Windows 3. It's, as the name implies, was actually the third edition, but Windows 3 was really the version that came out with kind of the look and feel that we are still with today and continuing with. Yes, I was definitely in the field at that time, and I remember Windows 3. It was actually a great improvement of what we used before that. Okay, then Microsoft, what they started to do is they started to use the last two digits of the year to name the operating system. So in 1995, that's when Windows 95 came out, which was a real big improvement on Windows 3. Then in 1998, they came out with Windows 98. And I'm not going to go through every little addition between these, just give you the general idea of how we got here. Then in the year 2000, if they continued to use the last two digits of the year, then that one would have been called Windows 00. So of course they couldn't do that. All the geniuses had to get back to the drawing board. And what they did in the year 2000, they came out with Windows ME, which stood for the initials Millennium Edition. It's pretty much regarded as the worst operating system that Microsoft has come out with. I skipped that edition. You don't necessarily have to go to every single edition. So I skipped that edition, thank goodness. After that, they did come out with a good operating system, and that was in the year 2001. They came out with Windows XP, and the XP comes from the letters in the word experience. Fantastic operating system. That was a huge improvement on a lot of things and regarded as one of the better Microsoft operating systems. Then in 2006, they came out with Vista, which was okay. It had a lot of quirky things in it, some things that people didn't like. So they immediately came out with the better version of Vista, which was Windows 7. Notice that Windows 7, Microsoft starts going back to the numbering system. Okay, so in their scheme of things, this edition that they came out with was now Windows 7 as opposed to, like I was discussing, Windows 3. Okay, Windows 7. Very good operating system. You're going to see in a chart that I'm going to show you that a lot of people stuck with their machines with Windows 7. I also have a machine that still has Windows 7 and everything works great. Okay, then a couple of shows that we've been doing on Computer Train. We've been discussing the Windows 8 operating system. One of the big differences with Windows 8 that we have described is we kind of had two sides. Trying to meld the tablet and smartphone technology with the apps with a regular computer. So you had the app side or the Metro side, and then you had the desktop side. So you kind of had these two different worlds. One of the mistakes they made with Windows 8 is they took out the start button. A lot of people did not like that, so that was what Windows 8.1 was all about. They basically brought that start button back, kind of making people feel more comfortable. Okay, so then you'll notice, here's where we are today. 2015, we're at Windows 10. And I know you're asking yourself, well, how did we get from Windows 8 to Windows 10? Microsoft decided to skip the number 10 because they're trying to give you the impression that Windows 10 now is so completely different from the other operating systems that it's a whole new world, and they don't want you to get like it's a continuation of something like Windows 9. It's brand new, and it's all about this new operating system. I've utilized Windows 10 on a couple of different machines. To me, every time a new operating system comes out, it's just how do you get things done. Sometimes it's a little bit more cumbersome, like when they took the start button out. Sometimes they make things a lot easier. In Windows 10, to get to things, it is quite easy, which I'm going to show you some of those things. I do want to show you a related topic to this about the market share of Windows computers and who has what. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is the different operating systems going back to Windows 7. And this is the market share of the computers that have Windows. By the way, Microsoft Windows has about 90% of the worldwide share of operating systems for desktops and PCs, meaning all the computers put together, Windows operating systems are on 90% of them. So yes, some people do have Apple computers and some other operating system, but obviously Microsoft Windows is the dominant force in operating systems. But I want you to take a look at a couple interesting facts. If you look, Windows 7 is at 55%. So I just said today's 2015 and we're in Windows 10, yet 55% of the computers out there are still running Windows 7. If you look even a little bit closer than that, Windows XP, 10% still running XP, and that was quite a few years ago. So if you add those two up together, of the number of computers with Microsoft Windows, give or take, 65% of the computers are still running XP or Windows 7. Okay, Windows 10 is making a little bit of headway, so they're at 10% right now, and you can obviously expect that to increase, especially as new computers, new tablets, new laptops are purchased. They are going to be coming with Windows 10, but they're engaged in a pretty aggressive campaign to upgrade computers. And one of the things we'll talk about is this free upgrade that you can get, a little bit different of some things that we have done in the past. But with that 55 and 10%, what I want to describe here is what's the moral of the story as related to operating systems and you as a computer user. The moral of the story here is if it's not broken, don't fix it. Just because you have an older computer with an older operating system does not mean you have to run out and upgrade the operating system. Remember, the operating system is one component of you as a computer user. Very important component. I'm not trying to marginalize it. But it's not related to necessarily all the applications you're going to run. If you have a computer and your applications are running fine, there's no reason to run out and go to a new operating system. I did like going to Windows 8 personally because I did like to have that advantage of having the app side and the desktop side. But there are other devices that run apps. You can buy a little tablet for a couple $100. Your smartphone runs those types of apps. So there's really no need to go out and get that new operating system, but every person has to decide that for themselves. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of key features that relate to Windows 10 that come with the new operating system that we might want to upgrade. All right, so what's under the hood? What do we get with this Windows 10? That's the cure-all of everything, as Microsoft usually names their products. All right, first thing is it's just going to be called Windows now. Based upon what I've read, there's not going to be a new version of Windows. There's not going to be a Windows 11 or a Windows 12.2. From here on out, it's just going to be Windows. Okay, notice a couple of things that allow us to do that. Free upgrades for the majority of your PCs. Even going back to the Windows 7 days, you can upgrade that. There are some hardware issues you have to worry about, so make sure you make some personal research decisions. But you can upgrade older operating systems, and it is for free. Okay, so I had purchased this Surface that we had talked about in some previous shows. It had Windows 8.1 on it. I've already upgraded it to Windows 10, and it was a free upgrade. Okay, the other thing is free updates for the lifetime of that device. So this device has Windows 10 on it. Any new additions, new bells and whistles, new virus protection, new anything, automatically will get upgraded for free. I don't have to purchase a new operating system anymore. So basically, we're not saying that this Surface has Windows 10, we're saying it has Windows. So anything new that comes out, it has Windows. It's going to have the new upgrades automatically. Kind of a cool feature, so if something new comes out that I want to upgrade to, I don't have to purchase the new operating system like we had to in the past, from XP to Vista to 7. We always had to purchase depending on the circumstances. So a lot of that is pretty neat. Okay, another thing is, what is Windows 10? What we're trying to do is get the best of both worlds from Windows 7 and Windows 8. Remember, as I just described on that little chart, Windows 7 was a fantastic operating system. As you can see, 55% more or less still running that operating system because it's such a good operating system. Windows 8, what we get with Windows 8 was that apps running ability. So now what we're trying to do is combine the sturdiness of that older operating system with the features of Windows 8, the new operating system. And based upon what I've seen so far, I think they've done a pretty good job with that. I'm not always a big fan of Microsoft. Okay, for those of you who are in love with that start button, we can't get rid of the start button. So the start button is back. Okay, notice this, there's no Metro side. So now we don't have, like Windows 8, we don't have the best of, the app side and the desktop side. What we have is the start menu, and the apps or the Metro side is incorporated into the start menu. So when you click on start, you can get to desktop apps or you can get to your Metro downloaded apps, which is really nice. So, like EPCC, the start menu is a great place to start. Okay, by the way, that's our motto in case you didn't know about that. All right, little plug there for EPCC in case my boss is watching. All right, couple other things here. Virtual desktops. And basically all that means is you get multiple desktops. That technology has been around for a while, but not really in its current form of what you can do. So the idea around multiple desktops, which I'll show you, is instead of the one desktop where we have the apps and we have different apps running that we can see, we can create multiple desktops or environments. Different people use it different ways. One of the ways I use it is to still divide up that desktop app side. So any apps that I'm running, like I'm getting a news feed or I'm checking the weather or something like that, I have in a separate desktop than I have from the applications that I'm running, like Microsoft Word or Excel or any kind of work I'm doing. So I can quickly switch back and forth between the desktops. A couple of downfalls that I like, hopefully they'll fix in the future, and once again, those upgrades are free if they do fix it. So I'll show you that. All right, Microsoft Edge. So remember, every single show I've ever done, I've talked about it's important to learn a little bit of terminology to help you navigate around the computer. So Internet Explorer no longer exists in Windows 10. There is a web browser, but now it's called Microsoft Edge, which is easy for me to remember because my wife drives a Ford Edge, so I can remember that pretty easy. Okay, so that replaces Internet Explorer. Couple of things here. In today's show, what I'm going to do is kind of, do a glossing over and show you some quick things about that. And then in the upcoming shows, probably what we'll do is we'll take a particular topic and delve into that much deeper. But here's some quick things about Microsoft Edge. You can take web notes. I showed you a little bit of that last time with the Surface and the writing pen. You can also do it on a desktop, so I'll do that today. And then when you take the notes for a web page, you can actually share it immediately with somebody, which is kind of neat. And this is a new feature which I like. This is a reading list. What you can do, because I read a lot of websites, I might read the Washington Times, sometimes I'll read USA Today, and in those articles I don't necessarily have time to read them all. So in the new Microsoft Edge, you can save those articles and then read them later. And I don't have to be on the same device. As long as I have Windows 10 and I can get to my reading list, it's all related to my username through the One Store, then I can read those things anytime I want. And so I found that out to be pretty useful, pretty cool. All right, and there's a thing called Cortana. That's like the commercials you've seen for the Apple phone or the Google phone where you can talk to your phone and ask it a question. So they have that same kind of thing, but they've also incorporated it into the website so it works together with the web browser. Okay, so here's some of the things we're going to take a look at. So let's take a moment and review some of those. All right, so one of the first things I wanted to show you that I've shown you in past shows is if you have multiple applications, how do we get to those multiple applications? And then also I'm going to show you this multiple desktop environment. So the first thing that we want to do is understand the term is called task pane view, which we've kind of had. In older versions of the operating system before Windows 8, it was Alt-Tab. Now with Windows 8 and Windows 10, you're going to use the Win key and Tab. And now it'll stay on the screen. So if I do Win key and the Tab key, you can see this is the task pane view where I see some tasks that I'm running. So here's the PowerPoint that I was just describing. I'm on the college website in the web browser, which is Edge, and I'm in Microsoft Excel. To switch to one of those applications, pretty simple. You point and click on it. Okay, so we have to go to Task Pane View. The other way to quickly go to Task Pane View is they have a button on our taskbar. So this is a new button in Windows 10. This is down here. And this button takes us also to the Task Pane View. So if I point to that button and click on it, that also takes me to the Task Pane View. I wasn't bringing my Surface today except to show you one little thing here. If you have a screen that's touchscreen like my Surface is, one of the nice things about the Task Pane View, zoom out a little bit. Okay, so if you have a touch screen, to get to Task Pane View is pretty nice. All you have to do is swipe from the left side. And that opens up that Task Pane View like clicking on the button or doing the Win key tab. So you have lots of different ways to get to it depending on your particular machine, if you're holding onto the mouse, keyboard skills, whatever it is. So that's really nice. All right, in the Task Pane View, one of the things that I want you to notice is on this bottom right here. Okay, on the bottom right of our desktop, we have a new button called New Desktop, and that creates a new desktop environment. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll see now, when I go to Task Pane View, not only will it show me the task panes up here, but it'll show me which desktop I'm on. Okay, one of the things that I don't like about the desktop is you can't personalize each desktop. So if you've been watching Computer Train, you know that I've had this desktop for a long time. It's the 6 Super Bowls for the Pittsburgh Steelers, etc., etc. But in another desktop, I want to kind of visually differentiate the desktops that I'm on. And right now you cannot do that. If I change it, it will change all the desktops. So I hope Microsoft makes that little change. I've already been reading blogs where I'm not the only one that doesn't like that. The other thing that I don't like is if you pin buttons to the taskbar down here at the bottom. So if I were to pin some icons in this second desktop onto the taskbar, those icons once again will simultaneously be pinned to the other taskbars in any other desktop. I don't like that either. To me, the purpose of a personalized desktop is I can kind of have separate, almost separate computers on one computer. It's like a virtual computer. So that if I need to do this, I go to this desktop. If I need this, I go to another desktop. So a couple little things I hope they change in future editions. And once again, I can get those upgrades for free if they ever do that. Okay, so in this desktop, I can run separate. So I'll go to run a couple of things here. All right, so now if I do this, here are the applications that are running in the second desktop that I created. If I want to see the applications in the other desktop, I would go to this one, go to Task Pane View, and here are the applications that I'm running in that one. Okay, so depending on what you're doing and how many different applications you can run, I can see how that could be useful. So right now I'm kind of using the two desktop to model like Windows 8. I'm using one desktop to do my actual work, the PowerPoint Excel business, and then I'm using the other desktop if I'm running some kind of apps from the Windows Store or something like that. Also, to get a new desktop, if you do this a lot, you can do the Win tab and the plus sign. So Win, Control, and the D for desktop, and that'll create a desktop also instead of clicking the button. The other thing you can do is the Win, Control, and left or right arrow, which will switch between desktops. So if I do the Win key, the Control, and the left arrow, I can switch between the desktops without grabbing my mouse. So those are pretty handy little tools. Okay, and you can see to get rid of a desktop, when you hover over it, it has an X on it, so I'm going to delete these others that I no longer need. And now I'm back to the single desktop. Okay, so those are pretty cool. All right, let's take a look at the Start button and some differences there. So down the bottom left, same place it's always been. So let's click on the Start button and take a look at what's going on here. Okay, so as I described a little bit earlier, Windows 8 had the Metro side or the app side, and then they had the desktop side. So now with Windows 10, here are your apps. Notice you have live tiles just like we did before if you're connected to the internet. Notice that these are updating. Those are called live tiles if you remember from previous shows. So when you download new software, you can add it to the start menu. Remember in previous shows you can pin to the start menu and you can pin to the the taskbar so that you can find them easily. A couple other things that we have here. It gives you a list of most things that were run recently. Okay, here's File Explorer, very important utility. Most of the students coming into my classes are not really familiar with File Explorer. That's our file management utility. I can't imagine using a computer without file management skills. So nice, easy place to find it. It's also on the taskbar. This is a cool button right here. There's a lot of things in the previous shows that I've showed you how to get to and how to change. Personalize the screen like I was telling you, the desktop, change the picture, work with the mouse, a lot of different changes. So now you don't have to search for it. It's a nice easy button right there. In Windows 8, if you recall, we had to kind of go to the Metro side and then go to the turn off button or the power button. Now that's built in right there. Then if you want to see all apps, you can click on that button and that will list all your apps from A to Z. So lots of apps installed on this computer. Okay, most of them desktop apps like Excel, PowerPoint, Access, but also other apps. Okay, so here are all the apps that we have on here. Okay, we also have search facility. So that's kind of handy. In Windows 8, remember we went to the Metro side and all we have to do is start typing. In this new version, you have your search window right here. And this is essentially Cortana. Okay, and what I want to show you is I want to show you that Cortana has to be activated on your Windows machine so that you can also activate it in Microsoft Edge. If it's not activated on the Windows side, it won't be activated in Edge. So I want to show you how to do that. This circle represents Cortana. So you'll see that in the future when we do some episodes on Edge, you'll see that little circle representing Cortana because it's also incorporated with Edge so you can ask questions inside your web browser. Plus, what the other nice thing you can do is you can highlight things that you're reading about and Cortana basically will search on that item and give you a list of things related to that. So it kind of does like a quick search without you having to type. Okay, so that's an important icon to remember. So basically describing all the great things that it can do. So we'll go to next. Okay, of course we have to read that. We'll get our lawyers to read that later about how we can use it. So I agree to that. Okay, so now we're going to do some speech recognition maybe and some typing of what, when Cortana responds to me, I have to give her a name. So what do I want to put in there? We'll tell her to call me Russman. Whoops, not capitalized though. Okay, so basically, okay. Okay, to fully get the utilization, you have to have a Microsoft account, which I do. All right, so we're all ready to go. Okay, so you can see just like your smartphone, lots of things you can do. You can set up accounts, set up reminders, set up calendar. It can do searches for you, and so we're going to explore Cortana a lot more in the future. But basically, you can type in anything you want. So let's see if we can find some information about El Paso Community College. Okay, so what's nice about this is it'll give you an idea of what it thinks you want. So notice that when I search, it's by default a web search. Okay, so it's giving me things all about community. This is without running the browser, remember. I'm not running the browser and then going to search. Then you can also use it to search on your personal computer if you want to look for your files. I still use File Explorer for these things because it's very specific. But let's say I couldn't find a particular program. I want to run Microsoft Access. So I can type in Access here. And you can see right off the bat, it tells me I have an application called Access 2016. So pretty handy to find things in your computer. In any of the operating systems that you use, you definitely want to be able to find things on your computer. As they've changed the operating system, things have moved around all over the place. All right, so this last little example I'm going to show you is to search for an application. I'm going to pin it to my Start menu, and then what I'm going to do is show you how to create groups, which we were able to do in Windows 8. I like to be able to create my own groups because of all the applications on my computer. I definitely have some, half dozen that I run all the time. Okay, so let's say I want to run Microsoft Word, so I'm going to do a search on Word. Okay, so I found Microsoft Word. Now I'm going to pin that to the Start menu, very easy to do. I'm going to point to it and right-click. Okay, so it's already pinned to my taskbar. Now I'm going to pin it to the Start menu, which is that menu I just showed you. So I'm going to say Pin to Start. All right, so now if I look at my Start menu, it's going to be pinned on there, you see? All right, so two things I'm going to do. Another thing that I run all the time is the calculator, for instance. So they already have that as a default. So notice up here, I have the calculator, and I'm going to drag it down to this new group. Basically creating a group of the applications that I like. All right, so you'll notice there's a little bar right above that where you can name all of these groups. Okay, so I'm going to name that, and I'll call that Russ Apps. Okay, so I have a nice little neat place where I can get to the apps that I run frequently. Okay, because there's specific websites I go to, specific applications I use that I do every single day when I get to my office at work. So I like to have those in their own group and I can find them quickly. And then if I can't find some other program that I haven't used in the past, of course then I can use the search or I can use Cortana to find it for me. I hope you enjoyed this show. We took a look at Windows 10, and there's so much to tell you. I barely skimmed the surface. I bet there's another 10 shows that I could show you on Windows 10. So I hope you tune in next time, and we'll see you on another edition of Computer Train.